Good evening and welcome to SIM-PAC Live, where the rubber meets the road. I'm your host, Geoff Matthews, and today I've got a special guest, Ray Tomlinson. Ray is from SummitBWT, and we're going to talk about his window washing and building washing machinery that runs on renewable energy, on rechargeable batteries, and also how he's made it work on 85% less water. Now, before we welcome Ray. Firstly, welcome.
Yeah,
Ray.
thank you, Geoff. Thanks for having us along.
That's great. Now, before I get into the nitty gritty of your machinery and how long you've been working on it and what you've done, I thought our viewers might be intrigued by the subject matter today. And they might be thinking, we're talking about industrial sustainability. We're talking zero carbon by 2050. What's the big deal with window washing? So I had my researchers do some work, and they had a lot of fun with this, and you might like some of these stats, and I'd like to congratulate them too on the work they did. But they've worked out since 1970, so it's the last 53 years, that in buildings that there's been 220 billion square metres of flat glass produced to go into architectural buildings. 220 billion square metres. Now, if you looked at what was single rise and what was double rise and then took 3 stories and over, there's about 10% of the residential buildings are over 3 stories and 20% of the commercial buildings are over 3 stories. Now, so if you then did that maths, you would end up that there's 30 billion square metres of high-rise glass that needs to be cleaned around the world, and usually twice a year. And so that's a phenomenal amount. By the way, the total figure of 220 million, if you laid it out as a pathway and a metre wide, it would go around the circumference of the Earth 5.5 times. So it's a lot of glass that's being produced. And I know, and you're in the business of washing it. So but here's the problem, is that most of the high-rise glass currently is washed by abseilers, and it's washed by hand, but the design of the buildings is improving it so they can do automatic washing, so they can have machines and robots that go up and wash the buildings, which you can imagine these high-rise buildings having humans dangling from ropes, way up there on the tallest buildings in the world. Doesn't really make sense. But the high pressure washers are currently driven by petrol. Now, if we converted all that 30 odd billion into petrol, it would be the equivalent of putting 21 million cars on the road. That's how much, because those generators are actually really bad pollutants. They're not like a car that has catalytic converters and takes some of the really bad stuff out. They just blow it straight into the atmosphere. So it's not only the carbon, it's the pollutants that affect all of our health and our life. And with 4 billion people living in cities, this market is absolutely huge. And it's critical that we don't go backwards in CO2 and pollutants. So it's critical we don't automate, and we don't have a solution for the automation. And so that's where your machines come in. And now I've set that sort of context for you. Tell us the history. Go back to when you first started looking at this problem.
Wow. First started looking at this problem was probably about 9 years ago. So to go back a little bit further than that, I started washing buildings back in 1985. So I know I look a lot younger, but so I've been in the industry nearly 40 years, and where I got into sustainability was probably in the years you and I were doing triathlons. So back in the early 90s, and I was washing buildings in Wellington, and then looking at where is all my waste going. It's going down the drain, and then I'm jumping into Wellington Harbour, starting to do my, we're doing our training session in the harbour, and I'm thinking, hold on, I'm actually just swimming in all the muck that I've just washed just up the road has all come down, and I'm swimming in it. So that's what really got me onto sustainability. You're talking nearly 30 years ago. In my business, JT was part of JT Group. It's actually my father started the business 60 years ago now. We're celebrating 60 years. And so, so I decided that no, we were going to go sustainable then. And I had a policy of nothing down a drain. And everybody was going, well, how can you water blast and they're not going down the drain? But we do have ways, and all my guys, my team is all around New Zealand, and we have a process, and it works, and it's been working extremely well for about the last 20 years. So then that got me onto, as I was always one for technology, and that probably came back from Dad's. Dad was one of the very first. It might sound a bit strange, but back in the 60s when he started, in the 70s, started using the first roller for painting, because we were a painting business initially. And then he got on to the first airless sprayer, and the airless sprayer converted into a water blaster. So this was the first in New Zealand. So that's probably where I got my my liking for technology and new things.
Yeah. Yeah, and just for the viewers, Ray and I used to compete together, cycling and triathlon. Ray was a national level cyclist, and I used to like fine machinery back then as well. I remember your bikes, Ray.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, with those funny bikes back in those days. Certainly nothing like what they are now.
Yeah. So now, onto your machine, onto the problem of automated buildings and using noisy petrol generators and using lots of water and blasting these buildings. I think I heard you say somewhere you stood and looked at the problem and thought there has to be a better way.
Exactly. When you look at guys hanging off the side of a building, the safety for a start, we're getting more and more into health and safety over the years, and it's twofold when you're looking at cleaning glass. To look at using what they call a blade and mop. So you've got guys with buckets strapped to their tool belts, and they're mopping the window and then blading. And of course, as you come down the building, that bucket of water is getting dirtier and dirtier. But what they do is that the water is pushed to the sides, and it ends up the seals and the frames and the mullions still stay dirty. The glass is clean, but the building's not actually really that clean. So that's where we thought, well, there's a better way. I looked at a machine from overseas, and I was oversold on it. I was told it was going to be ease of use, it's going to be fast, it was going to end up being profitable, and in the end, I was totally oversold. It was nothing like that. And so I looked at it, and then we decided, let's design our own machine. So 3 years ago, I employed a terrific young engineer, and Sam's been in it really, and he's really focused on the first machine we developed. So this was the prototype, and our aim was to get a machine that was going to, as a contractor, it was going to actually be profitable to use. So, long story short, we've ended up developing what we see as the world's first fully robotic brush machine. And then from the developments from that machine, we've also developed the world's first commercial rechargeable electric water blaster. So these are water blasters that normally would require three-phase power. So it requires only a single phase to charge. It lasts a full day on a single charge. You're talking up to 3,000 PSI at 32 litres a minute. So, a fully commercial machine. So that's the exciting.
And so, how much amp hour and rechargeable batteries, and which sort of battery tech did you go?
Well, the ampage on, we're still trialing a number of options with ampage. Currently, it's 44 volt batteries at the moment. We are looking at because of the draw from these machines is very large. So we're looking at increasing the power so we can provide. So what we've done here is I've got all my guys as part of the JT Group, which is my washing arm, and we're looking at rolling out something like about 30 machines to all my guys, and they're requiring more and more power, especially to get up on heights from the ground. So,
and do you have your battery pack on the ground and pipe it up to the gantry going up?
No, so where we've got the two machines are quite separate. So the actual water blast, we call them water blasters in New Zealand, or pressure washers,
yep.
which are known around the world. They are truck mounted or trailer mounted units, and we have long hoses that we can take up onto roofs and the likes.
Yeah.
The robotic building wash machine is, if you imagine a large car wash brush, and that is our first go with designing that was actually, it was pulled up with a winch. The current machine we have is actually, it's self-climbing, which is, so all we have to do is drop a rope down and this machine will self-climb. The biggest issue that the industry's got at the moment is how do you stick this thing to the wall? And especially here in Wellington, Wellington would be I would say it'd be the windiest, it's certainly the windiest capital in the world. And we've been running trials now for the last 7 years at Wellington Airport. And anyone who knows Wellington, the airport is in the windiest spot in the windiest city in the world. And we can run our machine now in winds of up to 30 kilometres an hour, which is huge, and it sticks. So that's some patented technology. That's taken us a long time to work out. If you look at a building, and I'll use the example of Wellington Airport building, to clean that manually would take 3 people, 3 days to abseil. So that's with water blasters, scrubbing, and so you're looking at 9-person days to clean that building. Yeah. With our robotic machine, we can clean that 2 people in 1 day, and with a reduction in water consumption of 85%. So we've measured the water consumption. Right.
So that's look. One of the things I was just reading an article today about Spain, and and we shouldn't isolate ourselves because they've got a drought and they've just cut back all industrial use 15%. And so they've got problems. We know California's got problems. Australia had not enough rain and then too much rain. We've had droughts in some of parts of our country. It's part of climate change. And so water conservation is one of the key areas of conservation that we have to look after. It is going to become a precious resource, and we're either going to have not enough or we're going to have too much in a very short period of time, which, as you know, can lead to catastrophic flooding. So even in a place like Wellington, which is usually good annual rainfall, conserving water with our growing populations it means that we don't have to flood more valleys and the expense of having water cleaned. So now tell me about the difficulty of being in Wellington, New Zealand, the bottom of the world. You've got something that's cool, that in terms of tech, it's something we need. It's something this is what I call the rubber on the road. This is and you fit so well into the SIM-PAC philosophy about people doing cool stuff everywhere that is increasing productivity, but decreasing emissions. And that's what we need. How are you going to go about marketing this, and how difficult a job is that from a Wellington, New Zealand base?
Difficult, yes. We've got to the stage where the technology works. I think the exciting thing that we've got is that even though people are looking for machinery that's sustainable, what we've been able to produce, and this is probably it is because of my background in 40 years in this industry, is we've got two machines now that will actually drive profitability for the contractor, for the building owner. It doesn't have to be more expensive, because you're going to, we're going carbon neutral, or it's got to be more expensive. Sure, the machinery is expensive, but the working on site, the reduction in time on site is profitable for everybody, and that's the exciting part. So to get that, to answer your question about how do we get this out, it's a matter of podcasts like this where we can now start explaining to people exactly what we can do. If you use the example of and I'll go to the what we call the e-water blaster, so our electric water blaster. Here in New Zealand, you're looking at it's costing on average to run a petrol machine that puts out the emissions equivalent to about 8 to 10 vehicles. It costs anywhere between $600 to $800 a month to run one machine. And so the model that we're working on, we've started to work on, is a lease option. So it's a lease option where it's essentially cost neutral for whoever takes on our technology. They're already spending it in fuel costs anyway, so but that's going to be your and it's a fixed cost. So we know fuel's going up, and to my guys, it doesn't really matter.
So everyone wins on that deal, because they have less capital cost. That they essentially leasing something for what they were spending on fossil fuel, and everyone wins except the fossil fuel producers, but the planet wins.
Yes.
So nice, and we are going to see you at SIM-PAC in 2024 in Brisbane.
Definitely.
In February.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's exciting for me too. Not only to catch up with a former an old Wellingtonian and a cycling buddy, but these are the types of businesses that SIM-PAC's designed for. Really, it's for businesses wanting to tell their story and are doing something. Customer base. How have you found, do you think there's going to be an advantage to having your technology for your contractors? Now, I know noise would be a huge thing, just the noise generators, those petrol generators, but are people looking for, there's a lot of buildings trying to get to zero carbon. There is a race to zero carbon buildings. And so that's everything. And that also means window washing. So I can see that if people are wanting to do that, and there are, low emission buildings, then washing your windows is going to have to be that. Have you found that, how receptive are the customers at the moment?
Oh, huge. Absolutely huge. Noise pollution is major. We're living in very noisy cities. People are actually, living in the city. And a lot of the work that my guys do is out of hours. We'll be starting at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, or working through till 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night. And to have these petrol diesel generators going, the noise is quite deafening. So to have virtually no noise, it's a huge plus. But what we've found since we've been running one particular machine. Again, I talk about the e-water blaster. We've been running that for a year now, and the feedback from the guys is that it's their own health that they're finding. They're saying they are so much more relaxed at the end of the day because they haven't had that droning noise in the background the whole day. They're just feeling so much fresher. So that's huge. So it's not only just the emission side of things; it's also that the mental and physical benefits for the workers and people around that machine. Huge.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't like noisy environments myself, and I can imagine. I can imagine that. Well, Ray, it's been really great to catch up with you after all these years. It's been really interesting talking about your washers and your water blasters, and we look forward to seeing you at SIM-PAC next year. And if any of the viewers have got any questions or they want to know, I'll put Ray's email up on the front and back of this presentation. I'm also going to put some of those photos in here for you, Ray. Or you can just leave a message in the comment section of below of this broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Geoff.
Have a good evening.
Thanks for having me.